Hi, good morning. I'm Danielle Gallant with Guardian Realty, and today we are going to talk about the current legislation and some bills that have been proposed. So Nevada, we only meet once every 2 years, and currently we are in session, and there's a couple bills that I'd like to talk to you about. So far we have three bills that have dropped. Two I'm not in favor of. One is great. AB 141 did go through hearing at the Judiciary Committee, and essentially what that would do is extend the length of time of notice for an eviction or for a 30-day vacate. Well, now it would be a 60-day or possibly a 90-day, depending on how long the tenant has resided in the property. And that only applies to month. It doesn't apply if you were in a lease. So if you're in a year's lease, the landlord can still issue a 30-day vacate at the end of the lease. That wasn't really clear in the bill when we all read it, and that was clarified in the hearing, so that was good to hear. Just because, we want to have tenants stay in properties for a long period of time, and we were concerned that this would deter long-term residency. So that was one bill that has been heard in committee. We have another one where the text has been published, but so far there hasn't been a scheduling committee. Bills, they have to go through a long process. There's 1,000 different steps they have to go through. So it might not even be heard in committee, but we are watching it. Essentially what this would do is get rid of the summary eviction process as a whole and require that all landlords for eviction proceedings go through a formal eviction process. And I spoke to my attorney and asked him what exactly that would entail, and so there's a lot of differences. One, filing fees for a summary eviction is $71. For a formal eviction, it would be $270. It's also a much more complicated process, as well as formal court. Summary eviction's very casual. And it would really require for tenants and landlords to have to hire an attorney in order to shepherd them through that process. And it also takes a lot longer. One of my concerns is that, landlords will build that cost into their operating and their profit and loss every year. But my concern is what about the middle class tenant who cannot qualify for legal aid services because you have to be of a certain income requirement, and now they've fallen on hard times for whatever reason, and they can't qualify for legal aid, and they're not going to be able to advocate for themselves appropriately in a district court for the formal eviction process, and they can't afford an attorney. So I get the reasoning behind it. For the legislatures, the sponsors that want this bill, it kind of gives tenants a little bit longer. It sort of lengthens out the time of the eviction process. But I think it's going to be really detrimental to a large portion of tenants who now can't adequately advocate for themselves in those situations when maybe the landlord is wrong. You've got good and bad tenants, you have good and bad landlords, and we want everybody to have an equal chance to be able to adequately represent themselves in any court proceedings. And the summary eviction process really allows for both parties to adequately represent themselves. And frankly, the hearing masters are quite good at this. So anyway, we don't know if it's going to go through committee. We don't know how serious it is, but it is something that we are watching. And then we also have a third bill done by Heidi Kazima, which is great. She's a realtor. She just got into legislation. And so, she's proposed a bill that would, stop tenants from being able to get stays. So a lot of times what we see is that the judge will grant the eviction, and then just before the lockout, the tenant will run down to legal aid and ask the judge to look at the case again. And so what happens is it automatically stays for a couple days, and then the judge goes ahead and grants the eviction again. So it just gives the tenant a couple more days from the lockout, And that bill's looking to just get rid of that ability for tenants to do that. So it's interesting. We've got some, probably some other bills that are going to be dropping, and we're keeping a close eye on it. And the Nevada Association of Realtors is doing an amazing job advocating for us, and so we're really grateful. And NARPM's working in conjunction with them and keeping us educated and aware of what's going on. So if you have any questions, my name's Danielle Gallant. You can contact me at the information below. I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss in detail this further legislation, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.